welcome to We Do, the officially unofficial podcast for Watchmen on HBO. I'm Jim.
I'm A.Ron.
And we've now seen Season 1, Episode 7, and Almost Religious Awe at least a few times, at least a couple times, at least one time. A.Ron, after perhaps one more viewing, what'd you think?
I actually really like this episode. I am not going to argue about some clunky things in it. I actually timed it. There's almost 3 minutes of solid exposition that not only is exposition, it's exposition we already know that solely exists to set up the punchline of the villain saying, "Yup, you got me," trapdoor. And there's a couple other things. But, when I think about the themes of this show and just a couple weeks after the reveal that the first superhero in America was black and had to hide his identity to operate in the world, we now have an example of a superhero on a god tier plane that has like the way they talked about Christ humbled himself to become a man, become a black man, and to exist in the society he has to hide his power. I think there's a lot of powerful things like that in the corners of even episodes like this, and I will be amazed if a lot of these weird details, even the lube man, if this shit doesn't turn around in the next 2 episodes, and say something really fucking mind blowing and profound. And I've got my Leftovers t-shirt on, my Kevin Adventus t-shirt on to rep my faith in Lindelof that he's going to deliver on that. I could be wrong, in which case we'll have a lot of talk about it. But I really liked it. Other than, like I said, the stuff that I did see is clunky and is kind of weird. But I'm gonna wait to see if it pays off or even how much it bothers me by the end. How about you? Have you cooled down on any of your hot takes?
Sure. Yeah, I've cooled down. I mean, I've gotten some time from it, but my opinion hasn't changed. So this show is weird. This show is half deadly serious, and then the other half of it is a complete farce.
Right.
And most of the time, they're able to successfully pull that off, I think, based on the quality of the writing and the messages that they're trying to get across to you. This episode, I think, is the exception. This episode, I felt, was weakly written. And I don't know if that's in service of, getting to the point that they need to set up the next 2 episodes, which will blow our minds, or what. But I mean, I think it's clear that this episode is, if it wasn't for the Dr. Manhattan reveal, I think this episode would be much less highly regarded.
Yes, but that's saying a lot. That's the Dr. Manhattan reveal is pretty incredible. If I wasn't super active.
I've actually come around on the Manhattan reveal. I think it's better done because I think the amalgamation of this being a weak episode as far as the writing goes, but also being spoiled on half of this shit, it really just soured me on that reveal even the first time I watched it. And then getting a little distance from it, I'm like, okay, well, the reveal actually wasn't that poorly written. I think it was done pretty well if I didn't have any knowledge of this shit was leaked back in May. That Dr. Manhattan was Cal.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Why did it seem like it only exploded in the last couple of weeks or so?
Because people got on Reddit and started pushing a theory that they had gleaned from leaks that came out May.
So that's confirmed. There was a leak in May.
Yeah, I went and I read the article published in May that said, "Hey, I've got inside sources that say he's Dr. Manhattan."
Interesting, because that's what I'm saying. That's what going back to Joanna Robinson's tweet. It's that is what I was afraid of, because there's a whole lot of people. And again, if you organically, it sucks for the people who organically put this together, because the pieces are absolutely there.
The pieces are there, yeah.
And it sucks for you that you're getting, but there's a lot of bad faith actors, I think, on Reddit, and they're all breaking their fucking arms and back, trying to pat their back with their arms, and it's not a great look, and it makes me kind of, like I said, it didn't, because I didn't expect the reveal to be like that. I didn't expect the reveal was literally Angela caving in Cal's head, to pull some tachyon,
and that was cool,
to pull some tachyon interference ring that suppressed his Manhattan powers. That was fucking brutal and kind of amazing, and it also kind of it kind of flips the table over on the plot, because I'm wondering how the 7th Cavalry is going to take Cal. Is there anything to the Seventh Cavalry? Now that we're talking about the
hadn't thought of it, but
Excalibur and
no.
and we're at the end of our discussion, I'm going to lay out like all the different kind of like signs that it could have been that Cal was Dr. Manhattan. But like I how did they take him alive? Like what? I mean, I guess
they're waiting. They know, like they've got the jump on him.
Yeah, and there's some big science fiction device in their truck, but like what? You know, Adrian Veidt, smartest man in the world, tried and failed to kill Dr. Manhattan before. In 30 years, I mean, maybe Lady Trieu, possibly the daughter of Adrian Veidt, maybe she's with more thought and technology has developed an effective countermeasure, and
could be.
I don't know.
We'll talk about her plans because there's some suspect shit going on with her.
Yes.
There's probably more to her plan than it seems. But yeah, I think like on second viewing, it's still the weakest episode of Watchmen. Doesn't make it a bad episode of television, just makes it, I guess, disappointing because I expected more. I've been so thoroughly enjoying the last 2 episodes.
I don't even know what it means to be the weakest episode of The Watchmen, though. Like it's
I mean,
it's your subjective opinion. I'm
episode
not gonna...
of The Watchmen.
Well,
I think it's crammed full of exposition in order to get to an end point that they needed to get to, and so they had to sacrifice the writing of this episode.
The other thing is like
the elegance of this episode.
I do think there is some exposition. There's definitely, like I said, that Laurie scene is all exposition, but there's some of that. I mean,
Lady Trieu is all exposition. She goes off like an exposition bomb in this episode.
Yeah, but okay, so it's still exposition. Okay, okay, yeah, you're right.
I don't mind a little exposition, but that's all they do this episode, other than the reveal of Dr. Manhattan.
Well, I was going to draw the line between there's especially egregious exposition that if you know it, the audience knows it, the protagonist knows it, turns out the villain knows it. Like, what is this thing being delivered for? An exposition like Lady Trieu, where it's like all that stuff is new information and objectively fascinating, but it was spoiled last week by us reading the PD files. Like all the stuff.
And it's the way it's delivered too. Yeah. It's not just about like, oh, did we know it or didn't we, and that makes exposition good or bad. It's the fact that they could have more elegantly given us all this information. Instead, they just had a character come out and say it all in a 5-minute info dump scene. Like those are the things that annoy me about the episode.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the original Watchmen was a little bit like all those in-universe things that people rave about are nothing but exposition.
In-universe things like
the
PD
like
files.
I mean, like in the original comic, like you had these news clippings and this interview with Adrian Veidt and all that stuff is just
that the PD files are an analog of.
And that is that, and so it's like I don't know. I like I said, if you want to call it the weakest episode, that's fine.
Do I have to caveat all this? My opinion, dude. Like,
no, I get
like,
it.
do I have to say that after every sentence?
But I have to say, like, you know, as a person that liked this episode a lot more than you, I got to also wave the flag of, like, I thought it was an amazing episode, too. So.
You're entitled to that. Everybody who thinks, all the 99.4% of people, 94% of people on IMDb who rated this as the best episode of The Watchmen, sure, they're entitled to their opinion, too. Mm-hmm. And by far, I'm in the minority here.
It would be interesting to see our organic reaction, not seeing the... Because like I said, 3 weeks ago, I knew this was absolutely going to happen. Like the second I saw that knuckle shit, I'm like, well, that's just... There's a particular wrinkle on this fucking guy's middle finger knuckle that's like it's like a fingerprint. It's like, you know, it's like it's game over. Like as soon as I saw that, I'm like, well, fuck, he's a Dr. Manhattan. And then I just stopped reading more of that because I'm like, well, that's super crucial. I don't want to know the details.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one thing to know that, like, spoiler alert for a 20-year-old HBO series everyone should have watched. It's one thing to know that Stringer Bell gets killed in season 3 of The Wire, which I had spoiled for me by Bill fucking Simmons on a podcast. Okay. And I'm like, that's the moment I was like, you know what? I got to start watching The Wire because this asshole's not going to stop talking about it. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to know that. It's another thing to know exactly how it goes down. And, like, knowing that happened didn't, lessen my enjoyment of the reveal. And I found the same thing happened this time because if I had known that, like, with the hammer and the context and with But like, I got caught up in the moment because it felt like a real race against time. And then, like, I'm like, what's she going to do when she gets there? And then we see it. So, is there anything we want to talk about before we get into the episode proper?
No, I think I'm ready to go.
This episode title is reference to a quote from Dr. Manhattan from the comics where he kind of, I don't know what he expresses surprise, amazement, amusement at the Viet Cong wanting to personally surrender to him. He explains their terror of me balanced by an almost religious awe. And there's a scene, I don't know if this is in the comic book, it's definitely in the movie, where like all these Viet Cong are like bowing, a field of them are bowing before Dr. Manhattan. And that set up, that sets up the intro here really, really well.
Yeah, and it should have been a tip off that this would be the Dr. Manhattan introduction. But all right, let's get into the recap. We start off with an ad for Manhattan, An American Life in 1980s Vietnam. Young Angela rents a movie called Sister Night and asks her parents if she can watch it. They say she can't because people who wear masks are dangerous, according to her father anyway. And she goes to take it back to the store, but before she gets a chance, a suicide bomber kills her parents. And this is the accident that she's always been referring to about how her parents died.
Is it? Because I think that we have conflated two things. Her and Cal talking about the accident is referring to Cal losing.
I thought there were two accidents, one with Cal, one with her parents.
I did a little bit of poking. I couldn't substantiate that. They refer to the accident, and it's something that they shared, but it's, I think, because they collaborated on this whole plot to hide his Dr. Manhattan-ness. Because this isn't an accident. This is just an straight up act of terrorism.
Yeah. I mean, I could see how someone might want to label this as an accident that claimed their parents.
He tripped and fell on the Jeep with the
The bomber's not the one who would label it that. He's not labeling it shit.
Yeah.
But you know, a young child might want to like not deal with all of the ramifications of this event, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff here. Like, I think it's interesting that like John Osterman is the story of an immigrant and refugee who came to the United States and became a god-man that saved the United States from the Cold War, won Vietnam. And there's a lot of parallels between, like, if you look at the Manhattan Project, how many of those scientists were, you know, same kind of immigrant refugees. And you look at how we're currently treating immigrant refugees, and I keep wondering, it's like, how many of those kids locked in cages would have maybe done something on a Manhattan scale, either Project Manhattan or Dr. Manhattan? Well, no one on a Dr. Manhattan. That's crazy science fiction shit. But you know what I mean? Like, you know,
cured cancer.
Yeah,
that's always the go-to, right? Like, one of these kids could have cured cancer.
Right. Or one of them could have caused cancer, like Dr. Manhattan. But I thought that's a really kind of subtle point that amongst all the other stuff the show's doing was kind of nice. I also just really love the grainy newsreel footage of Dr. Manhattan. Like, it's just so lo-fi, low budget, like green screen work, but you run it through a VHS filter and it looks really great.
No, it looked good. I like that they ran the logo through the VHS filter too. They always stylize those in some kind of way, and this was the VHS version. There's also some weird stuff going on in this scene that doesn't make a lot of sense in context of this episode, but I think will make sense in the context of both next episode and also the PD files. When Angela's walking through the street, there are bikes constantly whizzing past her, constantly, like just inches from hitting her. And like, at first I was thinking, is this just a Vietnam thing? Like, okay, I know that typically Asian countries use a lot of bicycles for transportation and
scooters. Like, I've seen like just endless streets of just jam-packed scooters in some of these countries.
Yeah, so I thought that they were just going, okay, well, they're trying to set us in the mind state of Vietnam. But on reading the PD files, I think there's more to it.
Just trying to set up the like plausibility of a certain accident.
Yes, and I guess I'll wait till the end when we talk about the PD files to really get into that.
Yeah. Sell them. You want that engaged
Stick
listenership
around
all the way till the end.
Right. Anything else on this scene? Oh, I do like the interaction she has with her father here. Where, you know, they talk about this tape and why she can't rent it because people in masks are dangerous, which, you know, it's a little heavy-handed when they start to flash back, but we're experiencing all of this through Angela's fragmented memory, so I give it a pass.
Right.
And it actually makes a lot of sense that we would see these flashes of back to Will's son's childhood, where he discovers his father in this mask and he scares him. That all makes sense.
It's plausible in universe. It's super effective on an artistic level. So yeah, I did as well.
And it makes me think that Angela wants to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Like as an adult, Angela has a lot of anger, a lot of fear. she's been through an extraordinary amount of shit in her life, apparently, on top of just being a black woman in America.
Right.
And so I could understand why she would want to be perceived as dangerous, right? Especially after events like White Knight.
There's a lot of world building here, like all this like Dr. Manhattan hysteria. And I thought because like that's
VVN I think is what they call it. I think it's called VVN Victory Over Vietnam Day, which is like a sort of celebration that they have for, marking the day that Dr. Manhattan conquered. I don't know what to call it, and there seems to be a lot of discontent. In certain people.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to like this Ken Burns documentary I watched like 3 years ago now about the Vietnam War, which portrayed the idea that this is a civil war, sure, but it seemed like the side of the government we were propping up was the less popular. So it's like it is weird to see, but everything's weird about that. Like the fact that they would glorify Dr. Manhattan, this like vengeful god that strode across the land like a vengeful god and obliterated people. I thought that was interesting, but then I started thinking about like in the context as religious awe. Like I always thought it was weird, as a former Christian myself, the idea that Christians use the cross, the instrument upon which Christ was executed and tortured, as like the symbol of their faith, when they could have gone with like a stylized heart. Or like the fish thing, I think is kind of cool, Fisher of Men. But they go with the torture, like such a kind of ghoulish thing.
Yeah.
But like no one thinks twice about it. So like it struck me as kind of ghoulish to have all these kids like Dr. Manhattan everywhere. But like maybe that's 1,000 years in the future, it'll just be seen as like, of course everyone paints Dr. Manhattan eggs on VVN Day because he's God.
And then the other thing he says is, it's just pretend until it's real, which I think could not be more applicable to modern society. And you can look at it through the lens of media and say, how many people are influenced by what they see, what kind of media they consume. Angela very much is. I mean, she doesn't take up this Sister Night persona because she came up with it on her own. Now, a lot of the feelings that she has are just sort of embodied by that, but she has sort of this easy way to say, hey, I'm going to emulate this thing I saw, and that's going to try and make me somehow feel better, be less fearful, be more dangerous. And yeah, I think that's so apt with like just how the shit can get in your head and start making you forget what matters to you and sort of glomming onto whatever it's telling you.
Yeah.
Which is interesting in a show that I think has a positive, interesting message.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's trying to say about itself here.
No, that's something we've looked at a time, like how culture shapes the media and media shapes the culture.
Yeah.
You go from in a 30-year point, you go from It's a Wonderful Life to fucking Wall Street. Greed is bad and it's villainous and it destroys the common man. To greed is good. It's like that's what is a little bit of the dog wagging it, or the tail wagging the dog, or vice versa, and it's probably both.
Yeah.
It's like it's a mirror, but it also distorts and kind of like directs things, and it's fascinating. It's all fascinating. And like having media itself engage in this kind of criticism of itself is a little bit Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man, but
right. There's also a lot of shots of like insert shots of Tulsa and the Black Wall Street Massacre.
Right.
In this scene, which sort of gave me the impression that they were trying to parallel the colonization of Vietnam to the Black Wall Street Massacre.
And just Angela's trauma, experience of violence, trauma, and a violent society rebelling against its oppressor with because there's a little bit of in the Petey files, there's a little bit of like Agent Petey's talking about like this black immigration to Vietnam. There's a little bit of almost like a carpetbagger type of feel, like here's an oppressed underclass in America going to Vietnam, where they're essentially all oppressed underclass by Americans to get to take advantage of the economic opportunity.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. That like she is, it's almost like frames her as on like two opposite sides of that equation, but still the genetic, this whole genetic trauma thing is a plot point that's tracking through the series.
Yeah, for sure. I was trying to figure out if this scene is saying anything new about that, but I don't think so. I think it's, like you said, just tracking the whole thing. So then we move on to modern day. Angela's blasted out of her bed by her memories.
Was she ever? That's the hardest hit I've seen since Chuck on Better Call Saul.
Right.
Like, holy I watched that a couple times. Like, how did they do that? It's amazing.
And then Lady Trieu gives her the rundown on her situation by injecting her with a neurochemical advertisement for the medical procedure she's currently undergoing. Angela wants to talk to Will, but Lady Trieu says that's not a good idea yet. And then she asks Angela what she was remembering, and Angela lies to her, which I have to question the wisdom of lying to someone who has such a powerful command of memories.
Yeah.
Probably just monitoring what's going on in your head. Just put a fucking advertisement in your brain with an injection, and you dare to lie to this person about what you were just remembering?
I guess she's testing the limits of her power. I also thought, do you think there's a little meta commentary that like Angela's undergoing through this process the entire episode, and the tutorial tells us that this process is going to be tedious and maybe find a good book or something. Do you think that like Lindelof's like, boy, this is awful exposition-y, and this like and put that in there just as kind of like a private meta commentary on his fears of the episode itself?
Could be. That sounds like a cute sort of thing.
Because even the way it was delivered was like very what do you call it? Not parody. Satirical. It's like the person reading it was in on the joke. Like, we know this process will be really tedious. Maybe find a good book. Just relax and just let it wash over you. I thought that was funny.
Anything else you want to talk about this whole procedure she's undergoing? This recollective infestation. The
nemodialysis.
Right.
Saturate the brain with the cerebrospinal fluid from a neutral host. I mean, Angela assumed that was her grandfather. I don't know why, because he wouldn't be a neutral host. He would be the opposite of a neutral host.
You would think so, yeah.
I still don't know what it is with the elephant. There is definitely, though, some kind of big elephant tie-in, because we talked, this kind of, when I found on Reddit someone's pointing out that the Trieu Industries logo looks like a stylized elephant, and I remember that Lady Trieu from the Vietnamese legend like rode into battle on an elephant, and I'm like, there's a lot of there. I'm not sure if all's going to connect or what it all means, but it wasn't as random and like elephants have the longest memory kind of as I assumed when I watched it.
It still very much feels like that to me.
Well, it's definitely layered. It's there for sure.
They tried to think of like, okay, so we've got this theme of like handed down generational memory stuff. What can we do with that? I don't know. Elephants have memories, right? Let's just load this thing up with elephants because memories and elephants.
I guess it
doesn't feel like there's any real solid connection here. It's more just like the cuteness, it's loosely connected in the minds of some people that like elephants have long memories, so we'll go with that.
Well, it depends on what happened here, because like I guess I don't know why it depends on the process, but like in the writer's room I feel like if they came up with Lady Trieu and the elephant mythology and the logo, and they get to this and it's like, what kind of neutral host is hooked up to, and someone just said an elephant, and the room all cracked up and they're like, fuck, why not an elephant? Like I don't mind that. Like it's cute, but like cute like a puppy is, not cute like a
it's cute like it doesn't mean anything. And I guess I don't know.
But
I would prefer some sort of
where I'd be annoyed if I thought that they wanted the elephant because elephants have long memories. Let's hook it up to there, and then to make this make sense, let's make sure she's called Lady Trieu and she has an elephant logo, and like that feels a little bit more. And I don't know why that changes my impression of.
I mean, it has no bearing on the end result.
You're right.
I don't know. It's not just this one incident that makes it feel too cute. A lot of things have felt extremely cute and pointlessly cute. It's like, okay, well, let's throw this thing in there because it'd be funny, and I'm fine with funny. It's just they're trying to manufacture connections to things that don't actually connect in some ways. And I think Like I'm struggling to understand why Lady Trieu with the elephant is meaningful, and maybe it's because we don't have enough information about Lady Trieu. I know
That's where
7
I'm
episodes
at.
in, next to nothing about Lady Trieu. I don't know if what she's telling us is true. I don't know if it's false. No, it's not a pun.
What is
just,
true?
No, just roll with it.
Is there truth?
And so, like, I just don't see the connections yet. And maybe they'll present themselves.
That's what I'm
in
saying.
The next
like
2 episodes.
2 episodes
but they
from
gotta
now,
get there.
Yeah, 2
Like,
episodes from now, like there might be a lot of splaining to do.
Yeah.
But until then, I think it's funny and cute, and I liked all the connections to the animal.
Okay. Let's move to the next scene. Cal tries to get in to see Angela, but he's stonewalled at the gate by hologram of Beyond. Red and Pirate Jenny are standing watch outside. And we've got like 10 hours until the Millennium Clock is activated.
12, and it keeps
So the whole episode's a countdown.
It keeps counting down where we get like I remember last episode we were trying to determine like how much longer do we have, and it's like we're almost completely out of time. Like I think
it's 1 hour.
There's an
at the
hour
end of the
left.
episode.
Yeah, so like it's next episode's going to be jam packed. I wonder if it's going to be one of them real time episodes.
Could be.
Fucking
Could be
Jack,
one shot.
Jack Bauer.
Yeah. Single shot episode.
Yeah.
I
Oneer.
doubt this show would try anything like that.
58-minute, 27-second oneer. I want to see it.
Hologram technology. Any comment there? Just
Ben
more.
appears in a holograph.
Okay. Anything else on that scene?
Kind of surprised Cal was mollified by that. Yeah, like I mean, I guess that they mentioned that Cal's a pretty kind of.
He's not. I mean, he goes. He then shouts like, "Where the fuck's Laurie?" He doesn't say fuck, but because he's gonna go to Laurie, he's gonna take it above everybody's head, right?
I just think I don't know. It's like I was hoping that Cal would like at least physically try to be like, fuck this, I'm going, and maybe have to be like tackled or stopped. But it's like, considering their circumstances and recent events, he was pretty kind of like, well, I've asked, and there's gatekeepers, and they're keeping the gate. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Then we move on to Laurie listening to the recording of Angela she got while she was under. Petey calls up and says the looking glass is missing and a bunch of 7K are dead in his bunker. Laurie tells him not to call it in just yet because she's got stuff to do. I kind of want to stop here with the Laurie stuff and talk about this because I like this. I enjoyed being able to hear what they were recording because we talked last episode about like what the fuck must that have sounded like. And I guess it is just literally her narrating.
It is a little detached. It was like a little dreamy. It wasn't like, spoken with like the verve and fury that some of those lines probably came out in.
No,
it was nice.
She was in some kind of trance.
And here's another scene where the joke is, yes, we know. We've already been told this. Why, like making fun of its own exposition. Like I said, I think Lindelof kind of knew that he was walking a fine line, and he put a
doesn't
bunch
make
of
it
jokes
better
about it.
Lampshading it doesn't actually make it not a fucking lamp.
But
anyways,
it makes it pretty.
Well, to some.
Wait,
depends on the lampshade.
Did you go back and check and see how many 7K goons jumped out of the van?
No, I didn't. Did you?
I did.
Okay.
1 came out of the passenger door, 3 came out the back, and there were 4 advanced on the house. Presumably there was a 5th driver. So my surmisal is that somehow they went to the house. Somehow Rorschach got to jump on him with the boom boom. The 5th guy hopped out to try to help his friends, and he got slaughtered too. Because I was looking to see if like 6 jumped out and there's 5 bodies, then there is an unaccounted 7th Cavalry, and there's Wade probably running around in mask. But I think
well, that's the thing that I think is more interesting.
Yes.
There is a 7K member on the ground without a mask.
Yes.
Which makes me think
that's what Cecily was making fun of me for all morning long when I was trying to count. She's like, the important thing is the mask missing, and I'm like,
right.
Well, yeah, but you don't know that there could be 6 of these guys. Or
that's true. I think the episode is trying to tell us like, look, LG took the mask, and he's now going to infiltrate the 7K
or something.
To what end?
Now let me ask you this: is there a possibility that this is some kind of false flag deal to like make it look like Wade got jumped by the 7th Cavalry and put him because the takeaway is that Wade is not working for the 7th Cavalry. The way to really sell people working for the 7th Cavalry,
although he's now part of the 7K. He's not working for them. In face only.
What do you mean? I don't
Oh,
understand.
if he takes the mask and he goes undercover in the 7K.
But like I said,
he
like
would
what
be
if
part of them,
what if the
just-
whole point of the scene is to sell to like Laurie and other law enforcement that Wade is still like not on the board with the 7K? Because from what all Laurie knows is that he helped her with the Angela situation, and then he got immediately jumped by the 7K.
Mhm.
So I think it would be interesting if he's actually turned traitor. And I guess you would say that like these guys sacrifice themselves in some kind of like Bane plot to like sell that. Like, oh no, brother, they're expecting 3 bodies. You know, it's like they're expecting 5 goons to jump out of the van. A.Ron's going to count them. You know, it's something like that. Pretty far fetched. But what the fuck? How's Dr. Manhattan? I counted the knuckle hairs on the dude that had a mask off, and it turns out
that was Wade.
Wade is done a double reverse heel turn.
No, I'm pretty sure the episode wants us to think that Wade is now undercover.
Yeah, that's what they want you to
7K.
think. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wake up, sheeple.
All right. Moving on to the second part of the Laurie scene where she sits down with Jane to discuss Judd's death. Unfortunately, she's sitting in the exact wrong spot. So when she gets close to the truth, Jane reveals that she's been working with Judd and Joe Keane all along and drops her through a trapdoor. Jane then calls someone, probably Keane, and asks if she should kill Laurie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, is this just a dumb, like, super racist or dumb people kind of joke? Like, they're the type of people that would have a trapdoor installed.
What's dumb about a
and try
trapdoor?
to use it? I mean, there's just like I don't know. Like, just so many different ways you can incapacitate someone with that much of a jump on them. Yeah. And with Laurie being so the thing that kind of changed my mind about this being a bad scene is the idea that's kind of tickling a lot of people's brains, which is, what if Laurie has got the 7th Cavalry exactly where they want them? Like knowing now that Wade is maybe working on their side, she wants to be captured by them so that she can. I mean, this is like a long con type of game, but like maybe she's intentionally allowing herself to be captured, which is why she doesn't react to her whipping out the remote control and pushing 5 different buttons. And
what if she's just killed in this scene?
Huh?
What if they just kill her in this scene?
I don't know.
Like, it's a huge risk to take if that's her plan.
Yeah. But I also don't think that she expected the trapdoor.
No,
I also think it'd be hilarious if Laurie had just like gotten out of a chair and like taken a defensive position or something. Like, this all wouldn't have worked. It's a bizarre, it's a weird scene, but I don't know why at this point in this show we are taking exception for weird scenes being weird when there's been so many fucking weird scenes. Except for like there's maybe a little bit of angst that we're getting towards the end of this, and they can't all possibly make sense or pay off. And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, the weird scenes from before have been in really well-written episodes, and I've always been, excited to see what comes next. And the weird scenes in a subpar episode, in my opinion, let's get that in there, stand out more as weird scenes for the sakeness of weird.
Fair enough.
Sakeness? That's not a word.
Fakeness for the sakeness.
Fakeness till you makeness. All right, let's move on. Actually, no, one other thing. So Laurie clearly was not on guard in this scene, right?
She was the opposite.
She got taken completely by surprise, and you would think if she suspected that Jane had anything to do with this, or perhaps, this is all her master plan, but if she suspected Jane was in on this, then she would have been more on guard, which some people are reading as, and I think I find this interesting, if not true, but there's a lot being made of old white men in both this show and also in society right now as being like, destroying everything. And in large part they have over the years, but like there's a sort of a blind spot to perhaps old white women who might be just as racist and in on the whole thing.
I mean, yeah.
And so I kind of think that's what this scene was getting at a little bit, with her being not on guard, right? She couldn't even conceive that Jane would have been in on this, right? It was all Judd, because he's the old white man in the situation. So I don't know. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not.
It's weird though, because it feels like Laurie would be the last type of person to have that kind of chauvinistic view of things, as a powerful woman of action herself. you know, that
You'd think so.
but was partnered up with another powerful man of action that was wearing masks and stuff. I don't know. I guess I like the idea of her getting them to put her in a position exactly where she wanted to be. I like that better than her just having a blind spot about this old white woman.
I mean, it's possible neither of those are true.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
And she's got caught off guard.
Probable even.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to beyond visiting Angela in her room to psychologically test her with a series of images and questions. She also asks why she lies to her children about being a cop, which sort of triggers, I don't know if it's a trigger, but she slips into a memory of the cops asking her to ID the bomber who killed her parents. And she does, and the man is taken away, and he's taken behind the building, and he's shot. And then the police officer gives her a badge. There's some blending of Will's memories, and she places the badge next to the VHS tape of Sister Night. And then she comes out of the memory, and Beyond asks her what it was like to feel and see what Will did. She says it hurt.
And then she confesses to being the clone of her grandmother, or not that she doesn't confess, but she makes a whole bunch of statements about having the memories of old. They relate
about her nightmares.
Yeah. What did you? At the start of the scene, there's this voiceover that's intoning all these updates, 9 hours to clock activation. This one, they said, personnel designated as green report to the medical facility for removal of any remaining metal implants.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
You're going to have some electromagnetic shit going on, apparently.
Yeah, don't want any metal like how easy is it to remove a metal implant?
Right.
It's you got 9 hours to remove my fucking hip.
Oh, that's just a bunch of Dr. Manhattans down there. They got to all get their metal rings taken out of their foreheads.
What if that's true? I would like it better if the personnel were designated blue.
Yep. That would be too obvious.
Yeah, you're right.
Like a scar on a knuckle. So fucking obvious.
That's right. The new Manhattan is green, baby. He's working on green energy, not blue energy. That blue energy's causes cancer and fucking batteries blow up. That green, that's all rebranded Manhattan.
No, I don't know what it is with the green stuff, but apparently she's got a lot of employees that she wants to deliver a speech to. Yeah,
when Lady Trieu's kid, or I guess mother, Bien, asks her, why are you a cop? And there's all these multiple flashbacks of the Bass Reeves, Will getting his badge, the racist cop lyncher. That also worked on this genetic memory of almost the inevitability. The way her grandmother, June, observed oh, you want to be a police officer? Of course you do. Mm-hmm. It's literally in her blood. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, this is all of my favorite stuff of the episode. I think all that stuff with Angela blending with Will's memories, that all works, and I think is pretty skillfully done. So yeah, I really like those scenes.
And how steely Angela is, she not only is not afraid to finger the bad guy, but she also wants to. Probably would prefer to see him being executed.
Yeah.
It's also how there's something also about this extrajudicial. There's some kind of connection about this extrajudicial killing in Vietnam with Angela being attracted to the mask, with her grandfather getting justice with a hood instead of a gun, or instead of a badge, all that stuff tracked and was very I can't articulate it exactly the through line,
and I don't think we're supposed to be able to. Yeah. I think this is one of the things that I don't think is too cute because they've set it up with this nostalgia.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
visual poetry. It just works.
Right. The other one of the other things I want to talk about in this scene is Bian's dissertation that she's writing. Mm-hmm. Seems to be of a piece with a lot of the stuff that her mother/daughter is talking about. It's the adaptive function of empathy and the role of rage suppression in social cohesion, and as that relates to kind of
was it rage suppression or racial suppression?
No, it was rage.
Oh, was it rage? Oh, fuck! Well, I wrote it down wrong.
Yeah, at least that's what I got out of it. Yeah, and you see later in the episode where Lady Trieu kind of explains to Angela what went, or actually during the speech where she explains to everyone what went wrong with nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Those two things were sort of at the heart of it, right? They were trying to induce empathy via nostalgia, and that actually didn't work because of this rage that everyone had. They were reliving their old worst moments. And it seems like Bien is working on some kind of study of that, if not solution to that, right? Which could tie into the Millennium Clock, probably does.
There's also something we've been talking about, these twins, like that we saw, like these clone puppies, perhaps these clone people to work at Repet or whatever it's called, and then Bien holding up these cards of identical women and asking which one is angriest, while she herself is a copy of another woman.
Yeah.
And there's another way I don't think we're supposed to understand yet, but they are saying something about, with this and the Crookshanks and the Mr. Phillips, so there is something about the inherent worth of like copies of things, or you know, trying to clone something to they're trying to say something there that's interesting, like the fact that like Bien isn't going to be her mother. How could she possibly? Even if you flutter through her memory, she's also had her own memories. Like it's like this recursion failure where it's like, yes, she's gonna have these memories of an old woman dying of, I don't know, some kind of cancer or whatever, but she's also gonna have the memories of being a young woman raised by her daughter and like all the and being hooked up to machines. Like there's like you can't do the thing that Lady Trieu is trying to do, is what I think they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as an identical person that lives an identical life. I think that's what they're trying to get at anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what they're really doing with Bien, because like, okay, she's a clone of her mother. She's also super intelligent, and like clearly they make the point, right? Angela says, "Oh, my kid is nowhere near the level of your shit." So like, what are they doing here? Because I don't think Lady Trieu's mother necessarily was super intelligent. There's a lot of theories floating around that she's the daughter of Adrian Veidt, which would potentially make her super intelligent. But would a clone of her mother be super intelligent?
Well, I know this
is this a nurture thing?
That's where I was getting at.
But like, all of the things that they talk about so heavily with the memory stuff is about nature, right? Not nurture. So like, they're sort of sending mixed messages, perhaps.
Well, maybe she's doing both. Like this is like some kind of mimetic eugenics project where it's like, okay, my mother raised me in this elephant mom situation, and I was created from like, you know, the DNA of Adrian Veidt and my mother, and then I was raised in this way, and look at me, I'm a genius, and I bought MIT at the age of 20 and all these other ridiculous things. What if I keep iterating this? And I clone my mother and I raise her, and then like you just keep doing that, like, you know, it would be a huge advantage for that person to keep taking the obvious huge advantage they have over other human beings and continue to compound that, you know, like hoarding intelligence and I don't know, upbringing as well as wealth.
Right. This dynasty.
Yeah.
Of intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then one of the more pertinent questions I think that Bien asks Angela is, if you don't want your kids to know you're a cop, why are you one? And it forces Angela to sort of, that and the speech that Lady Trieu gives after this, sort of force her to reckon with the anger that she's been feeling from a young age and maybe has not really understood. And I think she's starting to.
Sure.
All right, let's move on. Day 365 of the trial of Ozymandias. It's been a full year. The prosecutor delivers her closing statement, which is extremely eloquent, I have to say. Ozzy, who has said nothing for the entire year, stands to deliver his closing remarks, lets out an enormous fart, and then rests his case, and the judge swaps the jury for pigs and declares him guilty.
I mean, this is a farce in every sense of the word. The fact that, like, can you imagine what 365 days of this looked like?
I mean, the trial itself is a farce.
Right. And like I said, just imagine 365 days of this. Imagine every day that the judge sits and says, okay, let's get this over with. And 365 days later, it's happened. And imagine the switching of the prosecutor has this damning speech about, like, you know, this guy viciously murders us, and not just us. He killed 3 million people. Like, makes this devastating case that this guy's insane. And then she sits down, she winks at him, and then she like whispers, like in a kind of a playful, sexy way, master at him when she gets up. It's like, everything about this is fucking weird and crazy. And then it builds up to the fart, which I will say I called like 5 seconds before it happened.
You did.
Yeah.
Jokingly, you were like, "Oh, he's
No,
gonna
I
fart."
was actually dead serious that's what was
Were
going to
you?
happen. Yeah, I was dead serious, and it's like it was an out of body experience I had.
Wow.
And then that happens, and he starts weeping.
Yeah.
Why does he weep?
I think he's never quite had his face rubbed in the decision he
Really? So you
made
think this
30 years ago.
you
I think this is genuine.
Interesting.
I think this is the only damn genuine thing that's happening on screen during this entire farce. The other stuff is all a sham for something, and it appears like the prosecutor is in on this with him.
Yeah. See, at first I thought he was just bored. Like he's like, I'm trapped. Like well, maybe these kind of go together. My first inclination is that he is just like weeping because this is a super intelligent person surrounded by all this performative craziness by some kind of clone morons, and he just can't take it. But I also think it's been a year since he successfully got the call for help out, and no one has showed up. Like, that was a personalized message. Save me something. Save me, like, whether you think it saved me daughter, save me Doc, save me Dickwad, whatever it is. That was a message that he succeeded. He got it out, and then it's been a year and nothing has happened. I wonder if there's, like, a little bit of despair setting in. That, like,
could be. I'm
going to be brought to justice, whatever the hell that means, by this court, whatever the hell that is going to be, and my brilliant life is going to come to an end. The idea that he'd have genuine remorse over these people just shouting guilty at him, maybe that's happening too. I think it's more of like,
I mean, he's been sitting here for a year being confronted with the 3 million deaths that he caused in order to preserve a peace that never came about.
Right.
Like, that's the thing, and I don't know how much of this he knows. Right? Does he have any lifeline, any feed?
Yeah, that's like an interesting question.
Any window into what's going on Earth? Because if he does, I could see him being very sad that his plan has not worked, and that in fact, things are probably just as bad, if not worse, than they ever were. So yeah, sitting there for a year, people recounting your stupidest decision of your entire life as the world's smartest man, you could probably get pretty depressed about that too, and feel a lot of regret. And I don't know. I'm trying to read into the Wink, the Master, and understand, like, okay, what are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with a trial that is going to have some consequence, that everyone is against him and he's forced to sit here and deal with it? Or are we dealing with a master plan here by Ozymandias, who has control over this entire situation and is just waiting for the plan to go off? And I can't tell the difference.
Well, so can we get to the next scene a little bit? Because this transitions to Ozymandias once again standing as a statue, which is the second time this has happened. And he's being found guilty in this scene, and we know that Lady Trieu bought a farm to collect something crash landing from space.
Which we thought, oh, maybe that's Vite.
And this next conversation is all about her revealing that Bien's a clone of her mother, and that she's doing this because she wants her parents there. And Angela says, "Is her dad? Is he there?" And he goes, "No, but he will be."
Right.
Like, is this literally going to be her freezing him from carbonite or whatever the Europa version is, and there he's going to be?
Could be.
That
it's looking more likely now.
That seemed all these things seemed very silly at the outset, but now that Cal's Dr. Manhattan, I'm evaluating these, and I'm like, okay, this stuff actually would track. But it's not that Lady Trieu saved him; it's just that the Crookshanks and the Wardens and the Phillips of the Europa just kicked him out.
Yeah, I mean the timeline doesn't quite line up. If you look at the PD files, I think Dr. Manhattan became Cal like 10 years ago.
Yes, almost to the day.
Right, and we know, we think the Ozymandias thing is happening 7 years prior. Like, he was in prison 7 years prior to 2019. So Dr. Manhattan wouldn't really have been able to imprison him if he turned into Cal 3 years before.
Well, it could be that Dr. Manhattan created his life on Europa just to do it, like to put an Adam and Eve in a Garden of Eden, and then got waylaid by the Abar plot, or just left him there and got hooked up with Angela, and then forgot he was Dr. Manhattan, and then but Lady Trieu
dropped him off.
Yeah, like Lady Trieu
Imprison him.
used that existing facility to imprison him there.
Yeah, the term imprison is slightly incorrect, right? Because he clearly wanted to go there.
Did he?
He thought it would be a paradise.
Well, he said,
right?
"I thought it was when I first arrived." I don't know that. I don't know if that means that he wanted
a prison
to go there.
would never be a paradise to anyone.
Well,
certainly not to anyone as smart as Adrian Veidt, right? Like,
yeah.
Regardless of how pleasant your prison is, it's still a prison.
But like, if he just got snatched out of in the middle of his daily routine and woke up in this place, like I could see open your eyes and think, "Oh my God, I'm in a paradise," and then realize the true horror of your situation. I don't know. I'm just it's.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? It's impossible to know.
It is,
unless you're working on a leak
episodes.
from May of 2019.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how all of this ties back in. They got 2 episodes to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know they have to address it. It's not like, oh, we can just end the well, that's not actually true. Ozymandias could be sort of the Black Freighter plot, and it never ties in. But Lindelof said it would.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
And even the Black Freighter plot absolutely tied in. It wasn't necessary
thematically,
but
yeah. It never intersected.
Gotcha.
Plot wise with the comics. Okay, so Laurie wakes up in front of the 7K teleporter, and Keen shows up to tell her that racists aren't actually racist. Come on, Laurie. And that he's planning on turning himself into Dr. Manhattan.
I mean, that's the thing, is every time I talk about like racism and the rise of fascism in the Western world, I always get a bunch of emails, probably from fascists, saying these people don't exist, when you can damn well go on YouTube and see them having millions and millions of views saying this exact shit. I'm not a racist. I just think
it's hard to be a white guy in America.
Hard to be a white guy in America. Things have gone too far. We've forgotten our original values. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
As much as I think the message is enormously stupid and despicable, I also think they couldn't have picked a better actor to be the whitest motherfucker alive.
I mean,
James
we probably made this
Wolk.
joke on Mad Men. Like, his face is literally a bowl of yogurt.
It's so good. He's great.
The not the fun yogurt with like strawberries or chocolate in it, just fucking plain.
Not even vanilla yogurt.
Nah. The shit that Jamie Lee Curtis is eating to make her shit smooth or whatever. That's the kind of
to make
yogurt.
her just shit yogurt.
Yeah. That's the kind that we're dealing here with Bob Benson. No knock on the guy. He's just a default setting for white guy.
Yeah, he's got that face.
Yeah.
And he uses it to great effect in this episode and previous ones.
Loved him on Mad Men. He's doing awesome. But he's definitely, he's cast for a reason. Sure.
So there are a couple of pieces of technology going on here, right? Some kind of 7K thing to capture Dr. Manhattan. But also there are teleporters, and I think we can't lose sight of the teleporters.
And there are there are True Enterprises or Industries boxes everywhere.
Yeah, important, because we'll talk about that pretty soon. What do you think their plan for the teleporters are? Try and gain access to the clock? Do they have a counter plan to Lady Trieu's counter plan for their plan?
I have no clue, because I think Lady Trieu is playing both sides.
Yeah.
To her own end, but I don't know to the extent, like, I don't think Will suspects that, or if he does suspect it, then he thinks that like her double dealing on the 7th Cavalry is going to be more harmful to them than his side.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if the 7th Cavalry have stolen this technology, or if
From
they've
Lady
stolen
Trieu,
the technology where like Lady Trieu. Is it stolen the same way that like Bruce Wayne stole his own shit in the first Batman movie, or like did they steal it without her? No, I don't know. Do they know that they stole it?
Right. Or do they think they stole it when she actually just sort of gave it to them?
Or did she just give it to them and she's double dealing? I don't know. I think it's impossible to know unless you got the leaks from May mainlined. But those are definitely things you're supposed to notice, for sure.
They are. I noticed them, and I'm eagerly looking forward to the answers. I guess that's everything in that scene. Let's move on to Lady Trieu delivering a speech to her employees about why nostalgia failed, and also why she built the clock. Though she doesn't say what it does yet. Angela doesn't like what she hears, so she follows her arm tubes to the room, and she breaks in. discovering that she's hooked up to an elephant. And she pulls the tubes from her arms and flashes back to her childhood or Will's past. It's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. What'd you think of this episode, or this scene rather?
There's a lot of great stuff here. The elephant's weird, of course. But that we talk about Lady Trieu's dialogue about how she created nostalgia to help people. Kind of like that Black Mirror episode where you've got the ability to rewind and view your life. It's like that'd be an incredible superpower to like, oh, did I really come across as an asshole in that conversation? And you can like, but she's found that people would just fixate on their painful memories, and this is this is literally what a lot of people try to tell minorities. Like, oh, if you're afraid that if you have to give up this victim bullshit, then you might actually have to like make something of yourself in the real world. And
right,
it's very, very dismissive. It's very not taking a person's actual pain and life experiences seriously. And the only question I have is, does Lady Trieu know that this is bullshit, or is this stuff that she's actually bought into?
It feels like she's bought into it.
Because then that means that what we speculated, the empathy bomb, is not what she's doing.
And she's almost shaping up to become a villain. I mean, an Adrian
sure.
Veidt-esque villain, right? Like she proclaims to be the savior. Perhaps she thinks she is, but she may not be.
Yeah, no, I think she's criminally insane is what the term they throw
and you
around in
can
comics
see
is.
that in a lot of the cinematography, which I think is really good this episode. Like when Angela ends up in that globe room, and you can the conversation they have. Angela is bathed in this light, and Lady Trieu is standing in the doorway in almost complete darkness.
Right.
Like it's very like intuitive the way that they're trying to frame Lady Trieu in this episode.
Yeah. Angela says, "What the fuck?" Every episode, or at least every other episode.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I mean, so do I.
So but here's the thing. There's some commentary that's been stuck in my mind over the last few hours where people are like, why is she so what the fuck when she's literally married to incognito Dr. Manhattan? Like, wouldn't it's kind of like when Harry Potter comes in.
Nothing can be weird now for you.
It's like what's like when Harry Potter comes into the fourth Harry Potter film, still amazed at like, oh fuck, you can wave a wand around and two buildings split open. There's another building. Oh my god, I live in a world of fucking magic. Like, Angela's fucking a stealth Dr. Manhattan on the regular, but she thinks like random, like crashing.
I don't think that one strange thing happening in your life precludes you ever getting weirded out by other things.
So like if you,
especially when they're completely unrelated,
beat to death a werewolf and 5 years later you come across a vampire, you're as amazed as you were when you beat the werewolf to death?
No, but if you found out that like there were brain altering drugs that had to be siphoned from you through an elephant, yeah, it's an entirely different fucking thing. It's not like, oh, I found a Frankenstein, now I found a werewolf.
Yeah, we're gonna have were-elephants. It's gonna be half Abar, half elephant.
Yeah, I don't think one weird thing happening to you means you can't ever get weirded out.
Is there an cartoon elephant called Buzz Babar?
Babar, yeah. Babar? I think you just broke the internet's mind right now.
I think I just broke my own mind.
And it's also Angela's ex.
Yeah, X-Bar.
They live in California.
I want to see C-Bar,
Bar
D-Bar.
is Dr. Manhattan.
Well, the next episode's called like, what is it called? Like a god walks into a bar. I'm telling you, is that too cute? Perfect cute? Half cute?
Too
stupid?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of too cute stuff here, but
do we get to the flashback? Because the flashback is, like, I think the best thing of her meeting her grandmother June is like the best thing in this episode.
Okay, yeah, let's get there. So yeah, this is the flashback. An older June visits Angela in the orphanage. June recounts in extreme detail how this conversation came to pass after her son's death. Follows the exact chain of events.
But I think that needed to happen because there's a lot of questions about how, where, why, this all happened. And I thought, It's exposition.
It's a little weird to be explaining to this child exactly how I came to be in your presence at this moment.
If you didn't even know you had a grandma and she came to whisk you away from an orphanage, like I think those are.
You can walk up to a child and say, "I'm your grandma," and they believe you.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
A stranger.
Absolutely.
That kids are pretty stupid.
Yeah, kids are real dumb. All right, Angela shows her the badge and the Sister Night VHS, and June invites Angela back to Tulsa to watch it with her. And they pack up their luggage into a cab. Unfortunately, June keels over dead, likely from a heart attack.
God damn.
Or likely dead, probably from a heart attack.
Probably from a heart attack.
Yeah.
It's late onset Dr. Manhattan cancer. I don't know. I thought this was great. I thought it's so painful to watch June strap Angela in, and she's so happy that someone's here finally taken care of, and there's this huge contrast between how shitty things were in this like Orphan Annie Vietnam orphanage versus how like caring and loving and kind of real and down to earth. Grandma says fuck. Grandma's gonna let her watch Sister Night, no problem.
If Grandma named that movie, it'd just be called Motherfucking Gun.
Yeah, none of the fucking motherfucking gun.
Yeah.
And then when she collapses, because we still don't know the whole story of Angela, and I kind of was like, oh, okay, well now she's going to come back to America, and blah, blah, blah. Apparently she's going to be stuck in Vietnam for a long time.
Probably.
Yeah.
And the trauma is just mounting.
Yeah. Holy shit! At a young age to process all this shit.
Yeah, I'm amazed that she's as okay as she seems to be during all these scenes.
Yeah.
Because it's just some really awful shit is happening to her.
That's the other thing about kids is like, that's what's so heartbreaking is like you see kids like playing soccer in the middle of a fucking crater in a war zones because like, yeah, it's all fucked up, but they're still kids and they process it like kids. But
right.
The other thing I really liked is, in this big kind of crazy pan of around Angela, she's processing all this. There in the background, there's this big Dr. Manhattan mural that the Vietnamese separatists have have defaced with put like his hands are covered in blood and he's got devil horns and it's spray painted murderer over him. I thought
it's graffiti, which I think is interesting with the pedophile stuff that we'll get into later. There's some stuff to talk about there.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean it's a really well constructed scene for the most part. This is some of my favorite stuff in the episode. I like sort of the double meaning of we're going to Tulsa, where we're from, like our home.
Yeah.
It's not just they're going home, but sort of that ingrained memory, that feeling of who you are, and the generational memory, like I was talking about earlier. All of that is kind of encompassed in that statement, and it just feels right. After last episode. But yeah, and then it's super sad when she dies and none of that happens.
And the memory of her losing her grandma with the joined memory of her grandfather Will hugging her goodbye, losing her, and so
just intuitively knowing who all these people are.
It's fucking real good, real strong stuff.
Yeah. All right, Angela wakes up again and she tries to escape Lady Trieu's compound, and she stumbles into Lady Trieu's version of Cerebro, I'm going to call it, which shows her messages collected from the Dr. Manhattan booths all over the globe. Lady Trieu shows up and says that Dr. Manhattan can't hear the prayers because he's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, pretending to be a human. She also says that Will needed her help to stop the 7K from killing Dr. Manhattan and becoming him. And that's why she's doing the stuff she's doing, which I don't buy because, man, she's bathed in darkness in this scene. Seems ominous.
I want to, because I know for a fact that everybody listens to the instant cast, it listens to the full cast, just judging by the audience size. And I want to reiterate that I think it would be a very cool idea for the 7th Cavalry to succeed in elevating one of them to godhood, but as soon as they do, they immediately lose interest in the racist bullshit.
Yeah,
because like a being as smart and capable of Dr. Manhattan, like there's this line in the comic where Adrian Veidt tries to kill Dr. Manhattan. He rips him apart with an intrinsic field, and he starts speechifying, and less than a minute later, 300-foot tall Dr. Manhattan smashes his dome and grabs him, and he essentially says, yeah, you're the world's smartest man, but that means about as much to me as the world's smartest termite means to you.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you're that far above the human existence, like looking down at like all the different variations of people, it's kind of like, you know, it's like
It just seems so silly.
yeah, if you're an amoeba, a film of water on a surface is an ocean, but if you're a person, it's just fog, you know. And I think it'd
I mean, 3 seconds in,
I want to
Keen's-
see Joe Keane become Dr. Manhattan and just like, nah, this is all stupid, and like explode all the 7th Cavalry and go fuck off to Europa.
I think he's more likely to say this is all stupid and just leave,
yeah,
like Dr. Manhattan did in the
yeah,
first place.
like why would I like okay, we want to be
just-
more than a president. I don't even care about this shit anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Your president is nothing to me.
Yeah.
Could happen. I'm also interested in alternative possibilities here because we've talked a long time about this empathy bomb and how like the television sets the Lady Trieu passed out to the people in Oklahoma could be part of that plan.
Yes.
I still think there's something to it that it's part of the plan, but now the plan is turning sinister in my mind. Could it be that she's waiting for the 7K to use their tech to capture Dr. Manhattan, and then she's got some sort of area of effect TV clock related thing that's going to either capture Dr. Manhattan for her own purposes or turn her into Dr. Manhattan?
I mean, it still feels like with what we learned about the projection technology, it's going to be some kind of mass mind control. That seems like that way that technology is more used. I'm just trying to put the existing mechanics.
But that seems like a smokescreen because, like,
I think. Well, yeah, but I think there's going to be something with the clock that also is going to be combined with mind controlling everyone within an X amount of radius of Tulsa that like to do.
Well, I was thinking like the what kind of particle suppression field did they use on Dr. Manhattan? Yeah, I was wondering if they could have those devices. And she knows Dr. Manhattan's in Oklahoma. Could she be setting up a scenario in which she can actually kill Dr. Manhattan?
Maybe.
Using the 7K tech to become Dr. Manhattan. But it's kind of her own tech. Yeah.
Have you heard of a device called a tachyonic anti-telephone?
That sounds weird. No.
So
what is that?
This was a thought experiment that Einstein and his scientist buddies kicked around in the early 20th century, where they conceived of a particle that does not exist so far in science called a tachyon. It's a particle that intrinsically travels faster than light.
Well, yeah, I also think it opens space-time holes that the Enterprise can go through.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's exactly why you always hear about tachyon fields, because it's this postulated particle that can move faster than light. And what they decided it couldn't happen, because if it did, you could build a telephone and you could send a faster than light signal, and it would arrive at its destination before you made the phone call, and you could essentially communicate information backwards through time. What if these Dr. Manhattan phone booths are tachyonic anti-telephones, sending messages? So these people send these prayers and supplications and their problems, and Lady Trieu uses that as a way to predict the future. And she knows she has to build this device at this certain time because she's heard from the telephones people saying, "Oh my God, the 7th Cavalry taken over." Like, it's a way for her to keep one step ahead of the competition. But it's kind of like, because it would, if you have these all over the world, anything that happens in any part of the world that would stress people out or make people angry, just anything, they're going to tell Dr. Manhattan, and then she'll know about it in advance because these tachyons travel back faster than light and backwards in time.
Yeah, there's clearly some sort of predictive capabilities that Lady Trieu has. She knows, I think, that something is going to land on that farm, which is why she buys it out.
Yeah. But there's a really interesting Wikipedia article. It's just tachyonic anti-telephone, and it's spelled exactly how you think it would. That's got like a whole bunch of like math and.
Is it? So I've never even heard of this potential technology. Is it something where it would have to be significant multipliers of the speed of light in order to go back in time?
Well, it just depends, because like, so example, like in a real telephone, you pick up the line, you call somebody, they're getting the message like a fraction of a second after you actually gave it.
Sure. Right.
So like if you had this tachyonic thing that ran from New York to San Francisco, you might get a message like a fraction of a second before. But if you routed that signal like through some kind of Martian Martian subspace relay back to Earth
through her 50 Voyager style probes.
And she's got all these probes that have these fusion drives that have been sent out for like what 20. They've been moving away from Earth. Like maybe that's building her capability to look further and further ahead in the future as she increases the delay. Well, it'd be the anti-delay in communication,
right.
The acceleration to communication.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. We'll see. 2 more episodes. Where were we?
Angela's smashing out of.
Right.
Of, yes, that's a great idea.
Good. Does Watchmen have merely bad user interfaces or the worst user interfaces?
What's the example here? The globe?
The globe, the ancestry.
I don't know. In a world
the globe is truly awful.
In a world that never got the internet and like didn't have a reason to obsessively
that fucking
fuck up
1970s Magnavox remote control that she had for a trapdoor was a better user interface than this fucking globe.
Yeah.
The amount of information you need to access through this thing and the amount of interaction you have with it is
here's
completely
the thing.
absurd.
I think that you're supposed to understand that all of this is kind of a put on for Angela. Like she is supposed to follow the tube under the door.
Does Angela speak Spanish?
The fact that door lock could be smashed with a rock and it opens. The fact that like is this a thermodynamic miracle that the third thing she touches is Laurie's confession or prayer or joke stand-up routine to Dr. Manhattan, or is this all something that Lady Trieu has organized to put Angela in this position? I mean, that's the other thing is like I keep on recursing is like, is she intend Angela to go home and foil this attack
and present Dr. Manhattan?
Right, because that's the thing. When Dr. Manhattan would talk about the way he experiences time, it felt like he never could like change the future. Like he experiences all possible, like his future, and he sees it, and it's something he can't change. So it's entirely possible, in the Joe Rogan sense of the word, that Lady Trieu has used some kind of device like this tachyonic antitelephone to set in motion things that have to happen a certain way, as crazy as it looks to us. Like maybe the only way she can capture Manhattan or utilize the Manhattan or save Dr. Manhattan is for this sequence of events to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I could buy that she would be a pawn designed to reveal Dr. Manhattan if Lady Trieu didn't know actually who Dr. Manhattan was. Just knew that he was in the vicinity. I don't know. There's a lot of ways it could make sense still. It's a strange device. Let's move on to Angela plowing her car through Red's car in order to leave Lady Trieu's compound. And then she goes home, tells Cal she loves him, and then kills him with a hammer, removing an item from his skull and releasing Dr. Manhattan. Also, important to note, the 7K are outside her house with some device in the truck.
Yes, that is very important to know. Also, I listened to the full version of Trent Reznor's remix of Life on Mars.
Yeah,
it's really tasty.
It's a great remix. Yeah.
It's really good ambient music. It's really good music too. I was listening to it a lot when I was compiling it to feedback. But yeah, her once she bashes this thing and retrieves the Dr. Manhattan logo out of his brain, she says, "Hey, baby, we're in fucking trouble," and presumably asks him to do something about it. So it's speculated that this ring is some kind of tachyon generator, which we know. So I think Dr. Manhattan could build a body so well designed that he himself wouldn't know it's in it. Like, so he creates this body, puts himself in it, puts a tachyon ring into his brain, which instantly disables his ability to look backwards into his past and forward into his future. And now he's just a dude.
Right.
And he, with this story of him having an accident, and it's brilliantly set up to where Angela can build whatever life that she and him wanted or worked out together. I think it's a cool idea. And then if you pull that out, then it's not like Manhattan has to catch up. He instantly knows everything that's happened to him and everything that will happen, which That's going to be the interesting point, because there
does he like I'm trying to remember in the originals if because he gets surprised by Vite, who's already launched his plan like 35 minutes before that or whatever.
Right.
Is he able to see Vite having done that after the tachyon field
I presume,
is
because
dismissed?
I was assuming as soon as he got in his present, as soon as his actual existence went past the point where the tachyons are interfering, then he would be
I assume
able
the
to,
opposite.
Really?
That would just
It's
be
like
a blank
lead
spot.
sheet.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this:
and then it's always there. It's just something he never has access to because he wasn't present.
Can he no longer remember his past if he gets to that point? Is like his past locked off to him?
No.
Huh.
Just I view it as like holes in his memory, but I have nothing to really go on there.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know, because it's interesting, because like the way Manhattan always explained it is like he's doing the thing that he has to do, and in the future there's a big tachyon cloud. Maybe it's from he's not sure why, but it could be caused by a nuclear war, and he's trying. But
because time doesn't mean anything to him, right? So
Yeah,
like once something happens, isn't a thing. Like
that's also
it's
weird.
Just there always.
That he must consciously know that there's nothing he can do to stop the tachyon field.
Right.
And he thinks the most common. Well, but I guess that's the thing. He doesn't know that it's a nuclear war. If it's a nuclear war, then he's just pissing up a rope, and there's no way to save. But if it's not, if it's something else, then he keeps working, because maybe that's the thing that he has to do to. It's honestly makes my head hurt thinking about an entity who is like those 6-dimensional beings from Interstellar, like what that existence looks like. And it's also a noodle bender to think that like us like a what a 3rd-dimensional being would look like, or 2-dimensional being, and the idea that like I can only move in an XY coordinate, and then you can move in Z. Holy shit! Like
and when you apply that to dimensions that we can't even really comprehend as being a thing, like time is about as far as we get.
Yeah, but we can't.
If there's something else out there, we wouldn't know that it's even a thing, let alone how to manipulate.
We're drifting in one direction through this dimension that we can perceive, but we can't alter or in any way.
And it doesn't seem like Dr. Manhattan can alter it either, but he perceives it very differently.
And then there's points where he can't, you get these tachyon fields and he can't, so it's kind of like a mystery to him too.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and I'm curious to see, because like it, on the one hand, now that he's Dr. Manhattan, he's almost invulnerable.
Right.
But on the other hand, it could be that he's fucked and there's nothing he can do about it. And that would be interesting concept too. It's like, well, I already know that this is going to succeed and they kill me.
Because he's got to know the extents of his memory too, right? And I don't even know that calling it a memory is the right thing to call it, but his view of time, if it ends somewhere, he can assume that that's his death, right?
I suppose.
If there's nothing that's, I don't even want to say past that.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing else.
How do you kill Dr. Manhattan? I can't even fathom what it would take.
Is there also the possibility that the 7K has a tachyon device of their own, and that even though he is now back in Dr. Manhattan form, he's going to be unable to see the events that are about to occur?
It's possible. Because I was thinking, like, okay, here's another thought experiment. Let's say that Angela...
Because how do you kill Dr. Manhattan if he knows you're coming for him? Unless he wants you to.
Well, that's what... So try this on for size. Angela gets killed in a car accident at some point. And at this point, Cal still doesn't know he's Dr. Manhattan. Does Cal live a natural life and die? And then does he get buried? And then that tachyon thing is still in this body, and like at some point when that body disintegrates to dust and the tachyon thing, does Dr. Manhattan spontaneously regenerate in a coffin like 100 years? Like what would happen if or maybe he just dies as a normal mortal man and that's it. I don't know. I was thinking about like how all this stuff does fit together, and there's
but I guess he would know when he created the device to be put into Cal, he would know even at that point when it would come out, if ever. And I assume he wouldn't, choose, is that the wrong word? He wouldn't do it if that were going to be his demise. Unless he just doesn't care on like some cosmic level.
I'm really curious
because he would know, right? He would already have a view into when this device would come out.
Yeah.
He knows that this moment is going to happen because he can see it.
If it involves a tachyon in his brain, I don't know.
But But he knows that there's something beyond the tachyon in his brain, right? Angela pulls it out, and suddenly.
But he didn't in the movie. He couldn't see past the tachyon cloud that was, obscuring his vision.
Oh, see, I read that as being only while the tachyon thing was active.
So once it turned, okay.
And then he could see everything in the future past that, just not when he says I can't see beyond it.
But then why would he think
meant
it's
like
nuclear
I can't
war?
see through it.
He should see a squid in New York. He should see 3 million people died, and psychically he wouldn't think like, oh, maybe it's a nuclear war.
No, that's a good point.
So like I think it's like one of those things where it's like literally interference, and if it's in his brain, like the second it goes in, like he has no idea what's going to happen until it comes out. But how that plays with a mortal frame and. I don't know. This is some interesting thought experience.
But that doesn't make any sense in the stream of time that he's in, right? Because like if he can see all of his past and he experiences it as if it's now, it's just a thing.
Yeah.
It's just his life. And then he gets beyond whatever tachyon thing happens with Vite, right? Mm-hmm. He would definitely have the ability again to see all of his future and his past as one thing.
Yeah, if he, that's what
it doesn't take that away from him. So now, how can he say that he couldn't see beyond the tachyon thing if we know that in the future he's going to be able to see beyond the tachyon event?
The only thing I can say is like it's what he says himself, which is he.
I apologize to everyone. This sucks.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't.
I find it fascinating. These concepts are interesting to me.
There was like a thread or two starting to explore this. I think the Watchmen subreddit has entirely been taken over by shitposting.
For a good portion of it, yeah.
And
like, that happens to every Reddit.
Yeah, but like I think it's time for maybe to split some of that stuff into like Watchmen / shitposting or something because it's just too much. Like, huh?
Who's gonna go to that one?
The people. I mean, because like
guys,
it's
I got
legit
a
funny. It's legit funny, but there's like 7 different image macros of Lube Man being Dr. Manhattan, Lube Man being Cal.
Dude, somebody did a cover. Some cover art of Lube Man on a Watchmen edition, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, no, I saw that too.
Oh, I fucking loved it. Whoever you are, you're a genius.
I like keep that shit to Twitter. Can we talk some serious shit or like I don't know, have some kind of like mega thread roundup of all the cool theories being discussed because I found it very. It's like you just have to go past so much shit posting to get to the good stuff. It was annoying to me as a podcaster.
Maybe at some point we can do a deep dive on Dr. Manhattan because I find the concept of Dr. Manhattan as presented in the comics ludicrous.
Yeah, wasn't our Watchmen podcast like 3 hours long and probably 90 minutes of it was us talking about Dr. Manhattan? It's an inherently fascinating topic.
This one's 3 hours long. Let's get through it. That was the final scene.
Okay.
Why would Dr. Manhattan want to be with Angela?
Well, that feels like the next episode.
How do they meet?
That's
what's
crazy.
Fall in love? All of these are the pertinent questions.
So much things have to happen, and it feels like next week's episode is going to entirely be another flashback to how Angela and Dr. Manhattan met. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just like a 5-minute cold open, but I don't know. We will definitely find out in the 2 weeks ahead.
How did the 7th Cavalry know who Dr. Manhattan is? I have so many questions.
She's got to be. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, to what extent are they working with Lady Trieu? Mm-hmm. Do you want? Because I compiled a bullet list of all the evidence that Cal is Dr. Manhattan before we got there. Would you care to hear all these?
Sure, let's do it.
I feel like you probably already know them, but like probably not a lot of people playing at home don't. Mm-hmm. First up, his name Cal, short for Calvin, but also colloquially what a lot of Superman's friends call him in the comic books because it's short for Kal-El. Mm-hmm. Batman calls him Cal, Wonder Woman Cal, his friends, the Aquamans. The blue dildo is called Excalibur because it's Laurie's ex, Cal Abar. Mm-hmm. Does Night Owl know about this shit, or is it just Excalibur, a sword, and it just happens to
It's a really good name for a giant dildo.
Yeah, no, it's like what I'm saying. But it's also Laurie's ex, who is Calabar. Yeah. A nun is considered to be a bride wed to Jesus Christ, who is a man who's ascended to godhood, and Sister Night is literally married to a man ascended to godhood. Mm.
This is all the too cute stuff. That Excalibur thing is an impossibility as far as naming goes to not just be a cute thing that writers throw into a script.
Yes.
So like that's where I'm all about like, this is too fucking cute.
I mean, I you don't want to argue about it, and we'll just move on. Will suggesting that maybe Manhattan is walking around Earth pretending to be a human because he knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Cal's views on the afterlife, he's kind of like, very like, well, you're dead, and that's it.
That's thin, because I hold a lot of his same fucking views. And I will tell you right now, unless I got a ring in my head, I'm not Dr. Manhattan.
True, but it's just like, you don't have a blue dildo named after you is all I'm saying.
You don't, not that you know of.
Laurie has this weird chemistry with Cal. She's always mentioned how hot she is. She directly compares him to Dr. Manhattan when Angela observes that Dr. Manhattan must have been something, and she says, well, he's no Cal. It also might explain why Angela got almost irrationally upset at the idea that Laurie would call on him alone without her being there, without telling her. Like, oh my God, this fucking bitch is back sniffing around.
Yeah.
It also, and like I said, the other thing is this Reddit post from like 18 days ago where a person got a 3-frame image from the Weeks Ahead trailer, zoomed in on the man's knuckles, then found a whole bunch of like this guy's press photo and stock photos of this guy, zoomed in on his hands, and conclusively identified from his unique middle finger knuckle imprints that he's Dr. Manhattan. Which that's where yeah. But that's all I had for the proof, the hints, the Easter eggs that he was Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, in retrospect, there's plenty of stuff there. It's just real thin.
There's a couple parodies of that. It's like, we should have, like, someone took a picture of Cal's ass from, like, was it episode 1 or 2, and then against Dr. Manhattan's ass, and they both have really nice asses from the movie. And there was like something like, we should have known all along from the ass.
Right.
Now, I don't know if this is interesting or something we should talk about next week, but it appears that in all these situations where he's seducing Angela, that he's going to be Cal as Dr. Manhattan wearing a Dr. Manhattan mask, but he's going to look and sound like Cal Abar.
Talking about the next week stuff.
I think that's interesting. Like, when did he make the switch? Does he do that just for, like, what's the deal there?
Yeah, so let's talk about the Petey files, maybe.
Okay,
Peteypedia, because there's a little bit of info on that.
We had 2 of them. The first one is a memo, the origin story of Sister Night. Is that the one you want to talk about first?
No, I feel like since we're already talking about it, let's get to the Cal.
Let's skip to the Jelani medical report. This guy's name is Calvin Jelani from Philadelphia, and this is a medical report about a person was brought to a Vietnamese hospital who had been involved in some sort of accident, and this police officer found him dazed and confused and brought him here to the hospital.
And there's stuff about vehicular and bicycle collisions, which I find interesting.
The area
given
that Angela said. So Angela is at this point a Saigon Police Department officer, and she found him on a confused state with a minor contusion on his forehead, which is at this point fully healed, no longer visible, in an area that's known for a high rate of vehicular and bicycular accidents.
Collisions, which I find interesting given the first scene of this episode with all these bikes whizzing by Angela.
They're setting that up. Previous employer, Pyramid Global Construction. Did that raise any bell? Do you remember that?
Yeah, so Pyramid was the company that Adrian Veidt was using to mask all of his plans for his bunker.
Yeah, it's a holding company where he's running all these off the books kind of things that led up to the psychic squid explosion.
So you think this is a Lady Trieu, or is this an Adrian Veidt thing?
It's hard to tell.
Or neither.
The timeline, so that's 10 years ago. So the way I understood the timeline working is Adrian Veidt disappears 7 years ago, and at some point in the intervening years, Lady Trieu, through her company, acquired all of his holdings.
Right.
So I think at this point that Pyramid would be still under Veidt's control. But why Angela would have the idea to use this as because this is all bullshit backstory. Like this man didn't exist and now he does. Which I also wonder, did she have to have help? Because I feel like Hal would need a social security card and all this other stuff that he's just not going to have.
Yeah.
The way this reads is the doctor's kind of this unusually talkative and helpful officer who took a personal interest in this indigent man, brought him into the hospital, and she said she looked up using her police powers, all this deep person. But that's not good enough to get you a government ID and all the stuff that you would think you would need to work in society. Although I guess if he's a stay-at-home mom, he doesn't need any of that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I'm not denigrating stay-at-home moms. I'm just saying that, like, if you don't, like, the last time I needed a social security card or birth certificate is the last time I held a job. As a podcaster, I haven't needed it. I could have burnt my fucking birth certificate and social security card and changed. It did, in fact, change my name, and no one bats an eye because this isn't a real job. Boy, I feel like I just took another backhanded swipe at stay-at-home moms. That's a real job as opposed to podcasting, which is a fake-ass job. That still pays real money.
Stay-at-home God would need a social security number if he were to buy a house, if he were to lease a car, if he were to do. There are a lot of things you need a social security number for.
Don't you need to you just got married recently? Did you have to show an ID?
Yeah, you absolutely do. I don't know how closely they check to make sure.
That's true. You can get fake. You can get that fake shit. So.
But you need a social security number to do a lot of things, like
get social security?
mostly things that rely on like credit histories.
What does
at least in my experience
need with a house loan?
That's a very good question, especially when he has a wife.
There's a couple of the doctor made some statements or some remarks about the patient being uncommonly passive and quiet. Officer Abar did most of the talking.
He also explained to me that God doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's like,
and the death is a finality.
Living and dead, the same amount of molecules.
He doesn't explain that in the doc, by the way.
He said that he's polite and composed, which is unusual because usually people presenting with memory loss are like, borderline hysterical or violent. And also he took a great interest in his Dr. Manhattan bobblehead. It's pretty clear that Cal didn't know that he was Dr. Manhattan. So what's with the interest in the bobblehead? Is it just like
residual self?
Residual self.
It's generational memory. It's What, you think gods don't have memory to pass on to themselves?
That's true.
No, you're right. I don't know. It's cute.
Yeah.
Like that's the answer to all these things that don't quite add up. Is it's cute and they wanted to throw it in.
My tolerance for cuteness in the episodes is way higher than you. My tolerance for cuteness in the PD files is off the fucking charts.
Okay.
Like dildos named after Dr. Manhattan.
I'm
all for that shit. Do you want to talk about the memo, the origin story of Sister Night?
Yeah.
Unless you have some other nuggets that you wanted to glean from the medical report.
No, it does seem like Angela was in on it. Certainly.
Yes.
She knew who Cal was, that he was Dr. Manhattan. She didn't want extra tests done. She didn't want any of that.
She's the one that had to do the heavy lifting once he transformed into his state, because it's kind of like, I mean, that's a kind of interesting parallel, too, that, like, in the Bible, Jesus, I think this is Orthodox. I never know, because I was raised in a weird version of Christianity. But, like, it's always been explained to me that, like, when Jesus was put into Mary and was born a child, that his pre-human existence was kind of clouded over and he couldn't see it. It wasn't until he got baptized by John that the Holy Spirit came down and bequeathed upon him, like, the knowledge of, like, what he was before.
Yeah.
So, like, I wonder if they're playing around with that a little bit. The idea that, like, once he was born in human flesh, he had no concept of what his past or his future
I think so.
or anything. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the origin story of Sister Night. What's the origin story? This is another memo from Agent Petey.
She got this tape, and she eventually made that her life. What do you mean? What's the origin story?
Well, there's just like a lot of interesting world building, I guess. We talked about how Agent Petey researched and found that there was this wave of black immigration to Vietnam to escape the racism of the Nixon regime and also to find new economic opportunities. And also, it seemed like that there was like a kind of a Bollywood type of Vietnamese movie cottage industry from this movement where they had this subgenre of like black mask movies, which was their version of blaxploitation. And they had a film called The Black Superman, which was a take on Black Manhattan. They also had takes on there's a Sister Night, Tarantula, and Batman film that were parodies of the Silhouette, Mothman, and Night Owl. So I think it's funny that like Batman is actually a black version of Batman.
Yeah, that Batman was being parodied with Night Owl, and the Night Owl now was parodied by Batman in this fictional. Yeah, and
in the Snyder version, Night Owl prevented Bruce Wayne from becoming Batman because he saved his parents, and there's a whole bunch of funny stuff here. And the whole point of the Black Mask genre was as a social critique was that whites or masks were seen as a white only phenomenon. which Reeves being the exception to kind of prove the rule there. They also revealed the Sister Knight's parents were murdered, which is another reason why Angela might have been attracted to it. I also like the fact that it pointed out that the reason she was drawn to Sister Knight originally is because she looks like her.
Yeah.
It's a black woman.
Another interesting bit of information in here that we kind of already should have suspected and knew is that these films are sort of being reintroduced, sort of drip fed back into the public sphere, all forms of like home entertainment. And I find it interesting, and this must be part of Veidt's master plan, right? To drip feed certain things back to the public and influence them through the entertainment they consume, which if you look at what they said about, it's all fake until it's not, that kind of thing. I think they're getting at that.
What'd you make of, so remember the brick joke? Remember the punchline of that is this little girl that threw a brick in the air ended up killing God with it.
Hits him in the head, yeah.
In this, Petey transposes the theme song to the Sister Knight. And one of the lines is, she's got a body like an angel, 3448 brick red, which I think is so I thought the way women's measurements works is you go bust, waist, hip.
Yeah, if she's 48 in the middle.
Or and then brick, like a brick house, like she's just a pyramid. Because I think the brick red is like a
thick.
brick house.
I know that much,
right?
Thick
like,
with 3 C's, maybe.
Yeah,
a lot
3
of C's
with she's thick like a brick.
Thick
with 3 C's.
3 bricks. Yeah.
But they specifically now to talk about Sister Knight and this kind of roundabout analogy to her being brick-like.
Yeah.
So has she already fulfilled her primary function of killing the god and busting his head open, or is that yet to come?
I mean, it seems like that was her fulfillment of it. She literally took just busted his head open. So yeah.
And then, a kind of sweet note, he did some digging and found that the theater that Will Reeves worked at with his projector started showing Sister Knight every Sunday at midnight in 2017, the same year that Abar put on her mask.
Yeah.
So her grandpa's been keeping an eye out on her for a long time. Kind of proud of what she's doing, I guess.
Maybe.
Taking an interest anyway.
Yeah.
And that is the PD Files installment for this week. Are we ready for feedback?
We are.
All right, we got feedback. You can send it in to watchmen@baldmove.com, or you can discuss with your fellow fans at forums.baldmove.com. First up is Daniel. Got some Bass Reeves detective work. So Bass Reeves, the real man, was the inspiration behind the Lone Ranger. He says his friend and I both found that funny, and that the whole Bass Reeves situation is basically a Blazing Saddles, the movie type situation. And this is where it gets weird. Apparently, there was a spin-off reimagining of the television show version of Blazing Saddles called Black Bart, and the pilot only aired once in 1975. It was a sham production because in order for CBS to keep the film sequel rights, they had to keep producing something related to Blazing Saddles every year.
It's a Spider-Man thing.
This is why we had so many shitty Sony versions of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They did 4 seasons that they never even had plans to air before giving up on the Blazing Saddles property. The show starred, of course, Louis Gossett Jr.
Okay.
He says, I don't want to give credit to Lindelof for something that probably just is a wild coincidence, but if by some chance this factored into casting, I'd have to say bravo. And I would too. It's pretty amazing. Nicholas wants to write in about a comment that A.Ron made during y'all's last episode. What would it have been like if Superman had been black? Says, fun fact, if you can imagine it, comic books have probably tried it at least once. Is that Rule 35?
I don't know the number.
Anyway.
Yeah.
There's a Marvel Comics character called Blue Marvel who explores this exact idea. There's a number of clear similarities in his background in Dr. Manhattan's. A Marine and Korean War veteran participates in an experiment to harness antimatter. This experiment goes awry, and he's bestowed with a human antimatter reactor-based superpowers such as flight, invulnerability, super strength, energy projection, molecular manipulation, etc. His friend is also involved in the experiment, gets dissolved into energy. He goes on to use his powers fighting crime in costume featuring a full face mask to hide his identity. He's quite successful, but eventually his helmet is damaged in a fight, and the public learns that he's blacked. Despite all the good he's done, President Kennedy awards him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, but also asks him to retire because the country's just too racially charged to accept a black superhero. And then that's it. Blue Marvel doesn't conquer the United States and reform it in his preferred image, and that'd be kind of rad though. So yeah, that's there is a Marvel's
it?
at least.
Man, that's a shitty note to end on.
Yeah,
That's
man.
a real bummer for all the black kids who are like, my hero.
Yeah,
Just told to fucking take a seat.
Stan Lee just says, "It sucks, don't it, kid? Excelsior!"
Right.
Read an X-Men comic. We'll rub it in some more.
Jesus.
God. Yeah. Anyway, Barry writes us and says, "I've loved every minute of the show so far, and I can't wait to see what comes of this whole Cal thing. However, wouldn't Angela have known more things that she was surprised about during the season so far, given that she was married to God? Surely she would have been known a bit more about her grandfather, whether her police chief was a white supremacist, what Lady Trieu was up to, or that the White Knight was imminent." I think Barry is under the perhaps false impression that Cal is actually Dr. Manhattan and was just like pretending.
Yeah, you got to think of these as two different characters. Like,
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly of the belief that Cal knows nothing about being Dr. Manhattan, just from the way he reacts to Angela in this scene.
So I don't think I think that Cal is Dr. Manhattan and that he's got his kind of sensibilities and his outlook on life and whatever humanity he had left. And Joel always seemed, or Joe. Wait, what was this guy? What was John? John Osterman always seemed like a decent guy. But yeah, I don't think he has any of the memories or capabilities or future sight that the real Dr. Manhattan has. And also the other thing, important point to note about Dr. Manhattan is his seeing the future was localized to his own experience. Like he didn't know it's not like he knew like what some random person living in India was going to happen unless he like entered their lives or something. It's like
he wasn't omnipresent. He was simply able to view his entire timeline.
His omniscience extended to his own lifespan, and even then there was important gaps and asterisks and all that stuff. So anyway, I think that's where you were headed off in the wrong direction, Barry. Harrison, I know you briefly discussed the weirdness that was the elephants in the instant take and mentioned how they are associated with memory, but I've also heard before seeing this episode that elephants are highly empathetic animals. Aha! See, this is what I was talking about. I looked into it, and there's a lot of studies around the subject of empathy in elephants and that they are even known to shed tears in moments of sorrow, such as one of their own pack dying. I know A.Ron has talked about an empathy bomb in earlier discussions, and while I disagreed at the time, I think now he may have been onto something, although I'm not exactly sure how any of this would be tied into the story. I kind of moving away from the empathy bomb because it doesn't seem like it squares up with Lady Trieu's, but also Lady Trieu could be saying a bunch of horseshit for public consumption to hide the true thing that she's trying to do. I don't know. The quote-unquote true thing she's trying to do. Harrison continues, I haven't been following the fan theories outside your coverage, so this is probably already being discussed, but have you thought about the books Cal was reading and what they might mean? Angela straight up spoiled the ending to Things Fall Apart, the protagonist hangs himself, and Carl thanks her for the warning, with maybe a wink to the audience. He's also seen reading For Whom the Bell Tolls, a book where the protagonist sacrifices himself to save others. To me, this seems like a pretty obvious foreshadowing of Cal/Dr. M's fate. I did not think to apply these things to Cal himself, because in context, Things Fall Apart seemed like they had a perfectly in story, but yeah, I looked into because I haven't read For Whom the Bell Tolls, but I did read into the plot, and it's a war story set in the Spanish War, which is the kind of the prelude to World War II. And the protagonist, has to blow up this bridge, kind of like a bridge over the River Kwai kind of thing. And something goes wrong, and they have to detonate it from a lot closer range. And he gets grievously wounded, and he tells the other people to leave him behind. And there's a person who's going to mercy kill him. He says, "No, don't do that. I want to try to take out as many people as I can." But yeah, he dies this kind of heroic death. Yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for Dr. Manhattan / Cal. And well spotted there, Harrison. Gabriel, as a paramedic, the unofficial backbone of my profession is the classic TV show Emergency! I'd like to point out that in the Calvin Jelani medical report in Peteypedia, the hospital is listed as Rampart Memorial, the hospital from Emergency! The nurse is Dr. McCall, the nurse is D. McCall, and Dixie McCall is a registered nurse from Emergency. And the physician is K. Brackett, Dr. Kelly Brackett, also from Emergency. I have no current input as to the meaning of the reference, and he wondered if we knew anything about that.
No.
I don't, but I will say that in an unrelated event, I saw on our Mr. Robot coverage last week that someone noticed that a character was talking about going to a precinct in New York that didn't exist. And people were going down this like, oh my God, what is Sam Esmail's trying to say with this number? And someone pointed out that like NYPD has regulations that you cannot use their official badge numbers, precinct numbers, or anything like that. And I think there's a lot of emergency response because I guess the fear is, you have an officer or somebody overhearing broadcast on a TV show.
Public information, though. That's weird.
Why?
Because it's public information. Like.
Yeah, but you can make all kinds of rules about public information. But it's kind of like it's a safety thing. It's like
that's strange to me, but okay.
The explanation I saw is like, what if a fake, like a TV show broadcast is interpreted as an officer as an active one and causes some kind of confusion or something like that. I don't know. Seem kind of thin.
What
to
if
me.
people are dumb? Yeah.
What if people are dumb? They might do dumb things.
Yeah.
So I think the explanation is that like there is some kind of taboo, kind of like using real phone numbers, like you see the 555, that these fictional locations and fictional precincts, and I think there's like the 11th and 55th precinct are the ones that everyone always uses in like cop dramas in New York. That this Rampart's the same thing, or it could be the clue we need to break this whole season wide fucking open.
Could be.
Dr. Manhattan will defeat Ozymandias over a 2-player game of the classic brick-breaking adversarial video game Rampart. Yeah, there you go. Logan, I want to write in about why nostalgia is a key motif of this show. I'd argue in the literary sense, Lindelof is using nostalgia, the drug, as a vehicle for social commentary, critiquing our current nostalgic craze and what it says about society today. This is a good one. I like it. In this episode, Lady Trieu calls nostalgia her greatest failure. It's also designed to be taken in very small doses. People are meant to visit the past, learn from it, and evolve, but unsurprisingly, people began to dwell on the past. In a world of masked police officers, vigilantes, and squids unceremoniously raining from the sky, people turned to their nostalgia. It was the only thing that made sense. It was warm and safe. This parallels nicely with how everything in our world is a reboot, revival, reimagining of an old show or a decades-old IP, be it film, show, video game, or even music. Even centuries-old conspiracies like Flat Earth have been rebooted, which makes complete sense considering our current reality. Living in an internet age, we're inundated with news of everything, everywhere, all the time, so much so that sometimes it feels like we're living in the darkest possible timeline. School shootings, political theater, war, riots, uprisings, stock markets crashing, police brutality, etc. It's in dark times like these that people turn to what they know, what they can hold on to. It's why last year Friends and The Office were Netflix's most watched shows. It's why even Lady Trieu, the trillionaire scientific genius, is rebooting her own mother, because she can't quite let her go. I think, in figuring out what Lindelof is trying to say with this, that it's no accident that nostalgia in the show is a drug, not an experience like VR. That tells us, That tells us that, like a drug, looking back to the past can be incredibly helpful, therapeutic even when taken in the right dosage, but also like a drug, it's very addictive. You stay too long, it can be lethal. Whether that's literal death in the show or death of originality in our world is up for you to decide.
And let me add to that someone else's nostalgia is dangerous. And I think that's especially pertinent when you pair it with racism.
All you millennials watching Stranger Things, you better watch the fuck out because you're overdosing on Gen X nostalgia.
Yeah,
and it's gonna make you racist. Which explains
not exactly
a lot.
what I was getting at.
Explains
but sure.
a lot about these racist Zoomers you're always hearing about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good. I thought that was great,
yeah.
And it stands on its own, and there you go. Let's move on to Raphael. I have a few Dr. Manhattan thoughts for you. I was listening to the Instant Talk, and you started joking about the possibility of there being Manhattans in different places. Just wanted to point out that in the book canon, we do see Dr. M splitting himself into multiple beings. Mm-hmm. Towards the beginning, he is seen having sex with Laurie while also working in his lab. Not sure exactly how this could play and except thematically with the idea of clones and memories, but I just think that Cal being Dr. M doesn't necessarily prevent Dr. M from being on Mars at the same time. Is there a limit to that? Because I was just, when I was reading this email, the first thing I thought is like us discussing that Dr. Manhattan's omniscience is limited to his own experience. What if he makes like 7.5 billion copies of himself, but they're teeny tiny and he just stays in everybody's front pocket?
What if everyone's parents are Dr. Manhattan?
But so he could why couldn't he do that? And if he did do that, then he would know what everyone's up to at all the times.
Do they need to be teeny tiny? This is not a mass problem, right?
Well, how weird would it be if there's just a Dr. Manhattan following you? Just follow and watch.
It'd be weird for anyone to follow me, but I don't know if they look like Cal. It'd probably just be normal.
They live in their ear holes. I'm just, it's like he's got to be teeny tiny, so it's like ceiling cat. You don't like ceiling cat. Because there's a cat looking at you from the ceiling perpetually, it's unnerving. But
what if you wake up
was like the size of a tardigrade? No one's afraid of ceiling cat if he's doing that.
What if you woke up at night and there was just a disembodied brain and circulatory system hanging above your bed?
That would unnerve me. I would not act naturally. I would not go about my business.
The disembodied lips say, "Don't mind me. I'm just recording my future."
I would not be comforted by that. But if he was teeny tiny and in my ear canal, I wouldn't even know what's happening. Gives you hella brain cancer, though.
Christ.
Okay.
Good point, though. He could be everywhere, nowhere, anywhere. Who cares?
Yes. In your underwear. Raphael continues. Also, we know that the 7th Cavalry is trying to kill Dr. Manhattan, but we know and they don't. Man, these people abbreviating shit that's hard to type out. Be aware that I have to say it. If you say Dr. Manhattan 4 times in one sentence, that's a mouthful. And now we're talking Ozymandias and 7th Cavalry and
LG and LT.
This looks like a graphics card announcement. Let's see. With DDR 6000, Jesus, can I start over? Also, we know that 7th Cavalry is trying to kill Dr. Manhattan, but we know and they don't that Ozymandias has already tried to kill him. As Dr. Manhattan has said, reassembling myself was the first trick I learned. It didn't kill Osterman. Did you think it would kill me? I think that they may let him I think that he may let them kill him to think they've won only to come back again.
That's a tough thing to pull off from an audience perspective. Because we know, right?
Right.
Okay, maybe they don't know that they can't kill him, but we know, and this whole thing is just going to be seen as pointless if we think that they don't have some evolution on the tech that would actually threaten him.
Because Dr. Manhattan wasn't going along with Adrian Veidt's attempt to kill him in the first one. He was going into this tachyon-saturated laboratory, and he just stepped into the field generator and got bug zapped.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's going to be...
That's a fine line to walk.
Buckle in. You're going to hear a explanation involving intrinsic fields and tachyons, and there's no way to falsify that because that's not real science. So you might as well just say it's they bottled an Ozymandias fart and shook it up and put their thumb over the bottle and sprayed it all over Manhattan. I mean, it's just it's all crazy stuff anyway. But we'll see. We'll see. So next email is from Alex. He says, have you seen the following theory? And he essentially recaps the theory we talked about where Veidt gets turned into the statue, gets sent to Earth in asteroid or meteorite form. Trieu retrieves him. She sets the statue up and is doing some stuff with it and will somehow reverse the process to make Veidt human again. So yeah, we talked about that, but here's another wrinkle. I'd guess that Veidt had a hand in setting up the Cal identity for Dr. Manhattan in exchange for being sent to paradise. That's how he knows that Manhattan isn't going to be back to check on the life he's created. But the timelines just don't add up. Cal came into existence as Angela's love interest in 2009. Veidt disappeared 7 years ago. So there's a 3-year gap between Cal being Dr. Manhattan where he would have the ability to pull all this off. And then... being a human where he didn't even know he's Dr. Manhattan, had no powers that he could call upon.
Yeah.
And
that's all predicated on the theory that Dr. Manhattan is contained entirely within Cal, right? That there aren't other versions of him out there.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, yeah, you're right that the timeline doesn't quite work.
But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm interpreting things, and all times a flat circle, etc. That is feedback for the week. That is the podcast for the week. It's been we've definitely spent the time on the episode. We will be back next Sunday, for the Instant Take and Instant Talk podcast. If you're a club member, which is available as soon as the Eastern time zone showing of Watchmen is completed. We'll also be back Tuesday for a full coverage of our podcast, like we always are. You can send feedback to that podcast at watchmen@baldmove.com or discuss it with your fellow fans on forums.baldmove.com. Until that time, I'm your host, A.Ron.
And I'm Jim.
And we'll see you then.